Imagine taking a rugged, spiky, I mean, literally a 20,000-year-old desert cactus, right?
Yeah.
And dropping it straight into the sleek, sterile morning routine of a hyper-stressed modern executive.
It sounds completely absurd.
Right. It really does. You have this wild, ancient plant that thrives in, the harshest environments on Earth, and it's colliding head-on with this world of perfectly measured, lab-engineered supplement powders.
And identical white plastic pill bottles.
Exactly.
It is a massive collision of worlds, but I mean, it is also a brilliant case study in how we assign value to the things we consume, and really what it actually takes to convince someone to change their habits.
And that is exactly the fascinating intersection of ancient biology and modern advertising that we're looking at in today's deep dive. So to guide you through this, we have pulled together an incredibly diverse stack of sources.
Oh yeah, it's a really unique mix today.
It really is. We are looking at a brand new university advertising strategy brief. This was actually submitted today, May 21st, 2026, by a student named Jero Cruz.
Right, for a marketing class.
Yeah, MER 630, taught by Dr. Anthony Bullard. But, we are cross-referencing that corporate marketing strategy with some very raw grassroots health data.
Which is where things get really interesting.
Totally. We've got YouTube transcripts from clinical experts like Dr. Leslie Korn, channels like Health and Homestead and The Healthy Life, plus a few very comprehensive nutritional dossiers.
The contrast in these materials is really what makes this analysis so compelling, I think, because on one hand, you have raw ancestral wisdom and biology.
Right.
And on the other, you have the hyper-targeted, data-driven psychology of modern commerce.
Our mission today is to uncover how this ancient desert survivor, the Nopal cactus or prickly pear,
Yeah.
is being completely and ingeniously rebranded to rescue the modern, burnt-out professional.
It's quite the rescue mission.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can understand how marketers are trying to sell this plant, we really have to look at the raw material itself. I mean, why have humans been eating this thing for literally 20,000 years?
Well, because it is a profound biological specimen. The scientific name is Opuntia ficus indica.
Right.
And when you look at the nutritional dossier, it is categorized as a true nutritional powerhouse. But let's break down what that actually means mechanically for the human body. We are talking about a plant that contains 17 different amino acids. It is packed with essential minerals like magnesium, calcium, potassium, and phosphorus.
Wait, I want to pause on the vitamin C content because that detail from the sources really stood out to me. Humans are actually outliers in the mammalian world because we cannot produce our own vitamin C.
Right. We are entirely dependent on our environment for it.
We have to outsource it.
Yeah.
But why is that so critical, biologically speaking?
It is biologically essential for our fundamental structural integrity. Without vitamin C, your body literally cannot synthesize collagen.
Wow.
Okay.
Think of collagen as the physical scaffolding of your body. If you don't have vitamin C, that scaffolding starts to crumble like a house with rotting wood.
That is a terrifying image.
It is. You can't maintain connective tissue, wound healing stalls, and, your immune system is compromised. And beyond that structural support, all parts of the Nopal cactus, so the pads, the fruit, the seeds, they are incredibly rich in polyphenols, flavonoids, and betalains.
And if you're listening to this and wondering what those technical terms actually do, just think of them as rust-proofing for your cells.
That's a great way to put it.
They are powerful antioxidants that help your body manage oxidative stress, which is essentially the biological wear and tear of daily life.
Exactly. And that rust-proofing translates into some incredibly heavy-hitting medical benefits. The sources detail how the plant has hypoglycemic properties.
Meaning it lowers blood sugar, right?
Yes. Mechanically, this means it actively slows down the absorption of sugars in your digestive tract. So it keeps your blood sugar stable and acts as a natural ally for managing diabetes.
That's huge.
It is. It also has hypolipidemic effects, which means it helps bind to cholesterol and remove it from your system. It even shows neuroprotective qualities for your nerve cells.
And it protects the liver, too.
Yeah, hepatoprotective benefits, meaning it actively shields your liver from toxins.
So internally, it is doing absolute wonders. I mean, it's full systemic support. But externally, this brings us to the massive PR barrier that the marketing brief by Jero Cruz explicitly calls the slime stigma.
Ah, yes, the slime.
Because raw nopal contains mucilage.
Which is a gelatinous, highly viscous substance. And from a botanical standpoint, it's brilliant. I mean, it is the evolutionary mechanism that allows the plant to hoard and retain water in a scorching desert environment.
Sure, that makes sense for the cactus.
And when humans consume it, it acts very much like aloe vera. Imagine laying down a protective tarp over a scraped knee, giving the tissue time to heal without being constantly irritated.
Right.
That is what mucilage does inside your gut. It creates a soothing mucosal barrier that is highly beneficial for treating inflammatory conditions like gastritis and ulcers.
Okay, a protective tarp for the gut lining makes perfect logical sense. But let's be real about the human experience here. Eating it raw is like finding a nutritional gold mine, but it's wrapped inside a jellyfish.
A jellyfish? That's painfully accurate.
The sensory friction is just off the charts for a mainstream consumer. In the marketing brief, it's noted that mainstream buyers view raw nopal as this unappealing, highly perishable ethnic vegetable.
Yeah, they just won't touch it.
So I have to ask, if this plant is scientifically undeniably beneficial, why has modern society been so quick to completely reject it based purely on texture?
Well, what's fascinating here is how deeply our modern palates have been conditioned. Over decades, the processed food industry has trained us to prioritize convenience and hyperpalatability over actual nutrition.
Oh, definitely. Everything has to be perfect and easy.
Right. We expect our food to be instantly gratifying and texturally uniform. So if a functional food requires preparation, or if it presents an unfamiliar, challenging texture like mucilage, our conditioned response is immediate rejection.
We just push it away.
We do. We misinterpret a profound biological feature, the very mechanism that heals the gut, as something spoiled or gross.
We want the health benefit, but we completely refuse to engage with the plant on its own terms. Like we want it synthesized into a smooth, easy-to-swallow capsule.
Always seeking the path of least sensory resistance.
Which leads us right into the societal problem that the marketing brief is trying to solve. Because people won't eat the raw slime, they're turning to highly processed trend diets and extreme synthetic supplements. And it is completely burning them out.
It creates a profound biological and really a psychological deficit.
The brief zeroes in on what it calls the South Florida Wellness Corridor. So we're talking about metropolitan areas like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach.
Very high energy areas.
And specifically those high-velocity, hyper-gentrified urban hubs like Brickell and Wynwood. These are intense, fast-paced environments. The target demographic here is high-performance professionals aged 28 to 55.
And the core consumer insight Gyra Cruz uncovered is that these people are suffering from white coat wellness fatigue.
White coat wellness fatigue. That's such a striking phrase.
It really hits the nail on the head. They are exhausted by superficial clinical interventions. These are individuals who are tracking their sleep cycles, measuring their macros, popping lab-engineered synthetic supplements.
Optimization to the extreme.
Exactly. And yet, despite all this hyper-optimization, they still feel entirely disconnected and metabolically out of balance.
And according to the YouTube transcripts, particularly from the channel The Healthy Life, there is a very clear biological reason for this crash. It all comes down to a catastrophic lack of fiber in modern trend diets.
A huge issue right now.
The source specifically points to the carnivore diet as an example of this extreme optimization, noting that it contains zero fiber. Now, obviously, we're simply reporting the biological mechanisms detailed in our sources here. We're not taking a stance on anyone's personal dietary choices.
Right, keeping it objective.
But the mechanical breakdown the source provides is impossible to ignore. Without fiber, you are literally starving your gut flora.
Let's explore the mechanics of that starvation, because your gut flora, the microscopic ecosystem of probiotics living in your digestive tract, they are not just passive passengers waiting for food to pass by.
They're doing heavy lifting.
Massive heavy lifting. The sources state that this flora makes up 70% of the human immune system.
Wow, 70%. That is wild.
It is. They are also actively responsible for producing 20% of the body's bile, which is the chemical agent you need to break down fats.
Okay, so immune system and fat digestion.
Yeah. And furthermore, certain bacterial strains in your gut are exclusively responsible for breaking down oxalates, and they actively help detoxify heavy metals from your bloodstream.
So to put that into perspective for you, when you strip fiber out of your diet in favor of some extreme, hyper-optimized protocol, you are effectively shutting down your body's garbage disposal system.
You're halting fat digestion.
And dismantling 70% of your own immune system.
It is a systemic collapse masquerading as health optimization.
And this is the exact opening that the marketing brief identifies. These burnt-out professionals, they don't actually want another clinical pill to fix this collapse.
No, they're done with pills.
They're actively craving what the brief calls an invisible internal anchor. They want a daily ritual that provides a mental pause and restores their metabolic harmony. But it cannot add any extra stress.
And it absolutely cannot introduce any sensory friction to their high-speed lives.
Okay, but I have to push back on this marketing psychology for a second.
Yeah.
Because if you're listening to this and thinking, wait, aren't we just replacing one trendy biohack with another?
That is the big question.
I mean, taking a cactus, dressing it up in earth tones and calling it a ritual, isn't that just the exact same optimization game, just with a different coat of paint?
That is a very sharp critique, and it's a trap many brands fall into. But the strategy outlined in the brief represents a fundamental psychological shift in how the product is positioned. Well, the traditional biohacking culture relies on a mechanistic view of the user. The underlying message is basically, you are a broken machine, take this isolated chemical powder to optimize your output.
Right. You're a robot that needs premium oil.
Exactly. The strategy for this new brand, Hacienda El Maguey, shifts completely to a holistic view of identity.
Okay.
By adopting a heritage-based morning routine, the consumer isn't just fixing a symptom. They are adopting an identity of groundedness. They're connecting to ancestral agricultural roots. So the marketing is providing emotional reassurance as much as it is providing physical fiber.
Okay, so we know they crave an anchor, and they desperately need the biological benefits. But if they already hate the slime, how do you physically convince a stressed Miami executive to swallow a cactus?
You have to get creative.
This is where the actual execution comes in. The brief calls it the Trojan horse rebrand. How does Hacienda El Maguey get this plant into a morning smoothie?
By completely engineering away the sensory friction while rigorously preserving the biological integrity of the plant.
And the mechanics of this are fascinating. Hacienda El Maguey isn't just a random Silicon Valley startup, right? The brand is rooted in a real agricultural property.
Yes, a pioneer plantation in Clewiston, Florida, established in 1976.
And instead of boiling or chemically extracting the nutrients, they utilize a process called low-temperature solar drying.
The emphasis on low temperature is the critical mechanism here. If you take this cactus and bake it at high heat in a commercial oven, you destroy the fragile vitamin C.
You just cook it all out.
Right. You kill the active enzymes, and you rapidly degrade those rust-proofing polyphenols we discussed earlier.
So high heat ruins it.
Exactly. Solar drying is a slower, gentler process that dehydrates the mucilage while preserving the complete nutritional density of the plant.
And the physical transformation is what makes the Trojan horse work. They take this thick, heavy, waterlogged cactus pad and mill it into a fine 50 to 200 mesh culinary flour.
And to visualize that, 200 mesh means it is milled so finely that it slips through your fingers like powdered sugar.
Like powdered sugar. So it completely neutralizes the slime stigma.
Entirely. There is zero gelatinous texture left.
You get 10 grams of natural fiber per serving, but it dissolves beautifully into a liquid, behaving exactly like a high-end premium matcha powder.
It's brilliant. And from a strategic standpoint, the brief categorizes this approach using the effective model of advertising.
The effective model.
Yes, it operates on a sequence of feel, learn, do. Notice that they aren't leading their advertising by aggressively selling fiber content or blood sugar regulation.
Right, they aren't leading with the science.
No, they are leading by selling the feeling of a daily desert ritual.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. You can see that sequence engineered perfectly in the visual mock-ups Gyro Crews designed for the campaign.
The mock-ups are very telling.
Let's look at the morning anchor video reel intended for social media. The visual hook isn't a doctor in a lab coat aggressively pointing at a chart. It's a sleek, modern, sunlit kitchen.
Very calming aesthetics.
You see a wooden scoop gently dropping this vibrant green powder into a glass of water. It's a visual demonstration proving to the skeptical consumer that it doesn't clump or turn into jelly.
Proving there's no slime.
And the tagline floating on the screen simply says, "Your morning is moving too fast. Press pause."
It speaks directly to the psychological burnout before it ever asks you to think about your gut flora. And then, once they have captured your emotional attention, once you feel, they move to the learn phase.
By validating the product with historical heritage.
Exactly.
The e-commerce landing page mockup does this so well. It uses a split-screen design. On one side, you have the sepia-toned archival photograph of the 1976 homestead.
Connecting to the roots.
You see the soil, the history, the agricultural roots. And on the other side, you see a crisp, modern smoothie bowl. And the color palette of the entire site relies on sage green, desert sand, and earth brown.
Which is very intentional. The brief specifically states they must avoid the sterile hospital white that synthetic supplement brands use.
Because white triggers that white coat wellness fatigue we talked about.
Precisely. They are extending that exact visual language into the physical world through B2B placement, too.
Right, the cafes.
Yeah. The brief includes signage mock-ups for premium juice bars and cafes in that Brickell corridor. These aren't cheap plastic flyers. They are premium matte cardstock signs offering a $1.50 add-on boost of Hacienda El Maguey Nopal Flour for metabolic harmony and digestive flow.
It's such a seamless integration. The whole campaign leverages that est-1976 provenance as a psychological trust bridge.
A trust bridge?
Yeah, think about what they're pulling off. They are taking a plant that mainstream consumers literally view with sensory disgust, and by wrapping it in authentic agricultural history and physically proving it won't ruin the texture of their $12 morning smoothie.
They are replacing that deep-seated disgust with absolute premium trust.
It's incredible.
It is a highly elegant solution to a deeply ingrained behavioral barrier. But navigating this space raises an unavoidable question, and it's one the source materials force us to look at closely.
Oh, the ethics of it all.
Yes. When you are dealing with a plant that genuinely have profound, historically documented medical efficacy, where exactly is the ethical line in how you talk about it in your advertising?
We definitely have to look at the extreme anecdote brought up in the Healthy Life YouTube transcript. The host of that channel shares a detailed comment from a viewer whose husband was diagnosed with gastric cancer.
Which is a very serious, heavy topic.
According to the narrative, the husband refused surgery, became very stubborn about medical intervention, and essentially told his family he was going to let the illness take its natural course.
It's a highly emotionally charged scenario, dealing with the ultimate stakes of human health.
Incredibly high stakes.
Yeah.
So the wife, completely desperate to help him, starts foraging. She literally carries a knife in a bag around her neighborhood, cutting pieces of wild nopal cactus whenever she spots one, and diligently feeding it to her husband.
A true grassroots intervention.
And the story claims that at his next major medical checkup, he was cured, leaving his entire team of doctors completely baffled. The couple now incorporates the cactus into their routine weekly.
Now, from an analytical standpoint, we must pause here.
Right, have to be careful.
As the university marketing brief rigorously outlines, and, frankly, as the YouTube host themselves explicitly states in the transcript, a commercial brand cannot make official health claims based on user anecdotes.
You cannot promise cancer cures.
You absolutely cannot. It violates the fundamental standard of responsibility in advertising.
The brief is very clear about this boundary. The core rule of the standard of responsibility is that your marketing messaging must empower the consumer with facts rather than manipulate them through the sheer force of false hope or profound fear.
So the strategic pivot for a brand like Hacienda El Maguey is quite delicate. You do not sell a cure. Instead, you use the existence of these powerful historical anecdotes as testaments to the plant's incredible, enduring resilience.
You pivot the conversation away from the miraculous, unverified claim and strictly focus on the proven biological mechanisms.
Exactly.
Like clearly explaining that the nopal is feeding the gut flora, which houses the immune system.
Yeah.
You communicate that you are simply giving the body the foundational tools it needs to regulate itself.
Providing the building blocks.
But let me challenge that pivot, because I think a lot of listeners might be slightly skeptical here. Even if a brand puts a legal disclaimer at the bottom of the screen, right? Even if they explicitly state, this is not medical advice.
Sure.
If you share a story about a man recovering from gastric cancer, aren't you still secretly planting that miracle seed in the buyer's subconscious? Is pivoting to the biological mechanisms truly empowering the consumer? Or is it just a clever psychological loophole for marketers to sell more product?
That is the core tension here. If we connect this to the bigger picture of consumer psychology, we have to look closely at who the specific target audience is.
The burnt-out executives.
Yes. The brief categorizes these high-performance professionals as thinkers. This is a demographic that is intensely data-driven. They are inherently skeptical of vague marketing buzzwords and sweeping promises.
Right.
They demand radical transparency.
These are the exact same people who will open up a new tab and read the double-blind clinical studies before they enter their credit card information.
Precisely. So if a brand attempts to manipulate them by just telling a sweeping miracle story, their rational brain will immediately dismiss the product as snake oil.
You'll see right through it.
But if you treat them as intelligent peers, if you provide the biological why, the entire dynamic shifts.
So you give them the actual science.
Right. If you take the time to explain how the mucilage acts as a physical mucosal barrier for the gut lining, or how the vitamin C is a necessary component for connective tissue synthesis.
And how the low-heat solar drying preserves it all.
Yes. You are thoroughly satisfying their rational brain. By simultaneously providing the 1976 heritage story, you satisfy their emotional need for an anchor.
So it covers both bases.
It's not a loophole. It is providing comprehensive, factual context so the consumer has the actual data required to make an informed, empowered decision about their own daily nutrition.
So what does this all mean? When you pull back and look at the entire landscape of information we've navigated today, the transformation is remarkable.
It really is a complete 180.
We are looking at a rugged, 20,000-year-old desert survivor, a plant that thrives in hostile environments by hoarding water with a gelatinous slime that modern humans find completely revolting.
And yet, the journey of this specific nopal powder is an absolute masterclass in commercial and psychological adaptation.
It demonstrates exactly how to bridge thousands of years of ancestral